Alright, finally getting back to Teen Titans reviews after just so much stuff has been going on in my life, man. I'm really looking forward to chilling out and watching this real simple, down-to-earth comedy episode that is certainly not so strange that it's going to drive me insane by the time it's over. Let's take a look at this thing, shall we? Right out the gate, man, the opening of this episode, I can't even describe it. It's so weird. So yeah, I guess at some point the Titans discovered that someone or something was stealing cows, so they planned a stakeout where they pretended to be various people and or objects around the farm so that they could catch whoever was doing it. And like, this all happens before the opening titles. I genuinely can't imagine the episode getting more ridiculous than this. Spoiler alert, it gets more ridiculous than this. There's a bit of downtime when the group discovers a new restaurant that Cyborg is very interested in called Meaty Meats. A meat-only restaurant that doesn't even serve nuggets, which is just blasphemous. And of course Beast Boy is incensed by this. He's super turned off by the mere idea of a place like this being a vegetarian. And frankly, I enjoy meat. I think it's tasty. I don't eat a ton of it. I don't go overboard, but I like it. And the concept of a meat-only restaurant, it seems like a red meat-only restaurant, even kind of grosses me out. Like a fast food style restaurant that serves literally nothing but red meat molded into the shapes of different fast foody type things. It's just kind of gross, so I'm right there with Beast Boy. But Beast Boy wants a moped because he's tired of having to use his legs and or arms and or wings to propel himself forward during chases after villains. So he decides to get a job. And he ends up at Meaty Meats because no one else has a suitable job for him. And this turns into an episode of Buffy for a little while. Like Buffy literally did this episode. It ended differently, and they focused way more on how excruciatingly boring it can be to work a fast food job than this episode did. It's basically the same episode. And yet, this is more ridiculous an episode than that Buffy episode. And that's an accomplishment. Because once, when Beast Boy was completely overwhelmed by customers at the front because they gave him literally no training before having him start this job, he decides to go hide in the back, where his boss, Bob, goes to hide all the time too. And we'd already seen a little bit of the back. We as the audience had already seen a little bit of it. So we already know that his boss, Bob, talks to some Supreme Commander type character back there, and that also he is made of white goo, and so is the food. But Beast Boy doesn't know that. So he heads into the back, and he discovers all of these things. And he also discovers that the cows that have been stolen are back there as well. But they're not being processed into food, as would be the obvious conclusion. They're being used as a power source to power not only the ships that are being used to abduct them, but also all of the tech here, because Meaty Meats is a front for an alien species and their efforts to gather enough cows to power their mothership. Like, that makes so little sense that I can feel my brain short-circuiting right now. I certainly hope it doesn't get any more ridiculous than that. So anyway, Beast Boy confronts the Supreme Leader over what his plans are, and he discovers that the Supreme Leader is a block of tofu. Well, sorry, a block of new-fu, because there's apparently a difference. I mean, I guess new-fu can be a substitute for practically anything, like right down to the point that people who really love meat can't tell the difference between it and meat. Like, it must become a near-perfect replica of that thing and have the capacity to stay that way most of the way through the digestion process. And of course, Bob is also made of the new fu, and the Supreme Leader can seemingly spawn as much new fu as he wants and mold it into whatever he wants, and even into multiple instances of that same thing. So, clearly, there's no real conflict here. He mentions that he worked out a deal with the cows in exchange for using them for energy. He's using his new foo to replace them in the food chain so people stop eating them. The cows get a better life, one that they agreed to, apparently, and also he's feeding people a healthy meat alternative. Clearly, this episode is going to resolve with the Titans and the Supreme Leader Nufu character coming to some sort of agreement that allows him to continue to operate on Earth in an official capacity so that he doesn't have to sneak around to accomplish his goals.
And when we leave, we will blow up your planet.
Okay. But why?
It is our way.
Sure. But that makes no sense at all. If you were just gonna blow up the planet after you had everything you wanted, why bother making a deal with the cows? Or why bother building the restaurant that would just draw people into your operation? Why replace cows in the food chain at all? Why the unnecessary middle step? Why didn't you just take as many cows as you needed, leave, and then blow up the planet? It doesn't make any sense. I'm losing my mind. Oh, and something that I entirely forgot to mention up to this point. One of the reasons why Beast Boy stuck with this job rather than move on to another one when it started to get hard is because one of the benefits of working at Meaty Meats is that Meaty Meats just happens to be giving away a moped that is conveniently already topographed with T insignias and has tech built into it to their employee of the month. I would imagine their first employee of the month, though Beast Boy is literally their only employee who's not a blob made flesh. So I guess he gets it by default. And that must be his thinking too, because after he learns all of this, he steals the Supreme Leader and then steals the moped and uses its tech to avoid an army of Bobs and get back to the tower, where he interrogates the Supreme Leader by threatening to eat him. It is simultaneously existentially horrifying, because I don't like to think about sentient beings being eaten, and also absolutely gut-bustingly hilarious. And of course, the Supreme Leader cracks, revealing that the secret to defeating the Bobs is
Water! Nufu reverts to his normal state in the presence of water!
But it's able to mimic meat so closely that people think it's meat. But saliva is literally 95% water. How could it possibly do that if it turns back into tofu when it's exposed to water? I want to rip my hair out, but I really like my hair, so I gotta restrain myself. Deep breaths. Okay, anyway, so Beast Boy, with this new information in mind, loads up a Super Soaker, defeats all the Bobs, blasts his way into the Destructitron, flips the simple on-off switch to off, saving the Earth, goes home with all of the rescued cows, fills his friends in on what happened, and then Cyborg accidentally eats the Supreme Leader guy, because he's covered in tasty, tasty barbecue sauce. Okay, that's the episode. Holy crap, I feel dizzy. It's so ridiculous. But I love this episode so much. I can't remember which episode it was, but I remember back when I used to do these reviews regularly, that I came upon the comedy episode, and I remember saying, I think this might be the best comedy episode of Teen Titans ever. I was wrong. Literally nothing could possibly top this ever. This is the best episode, guys. I'm sorry. I don't even feel like I need to review the rest. I'm going to, because I still like making money, but this is the peak. This show has peaked. It can never surpass this again. It's all downhill from here. Like, what else can I possibly say about this episode? You can't possibly have watched this review up to this point and not understand why I love this episode so much. It's not physically possible. If you don't understand somehow, go find it and watch it. You will not regret it. It's so good. It makes so little sense, but it's just so ridiculous. I love it. And I'm the guy who, like, nitpicks the continuity of a children's show about a guy with a rock in his stomach. If I am willing to overlook the fact that the aliens' plan made literally zero sense, like, it might have made negative amounts of sense, and say that this episode is spectacular, then you know it's gotta be spectacular. Either that, or I've lost my mind, my brain is melting and running out of my ears. Yep. There's a dampness there. It's the latter. No, I'm kidding. This episode is genuinely hilarious. I do question running such ridiculous, outlandish filler episodes in what is otherwise a really serious show that can do comedy alongside serious stuff in its more serious episodes. Like, if I were writing the show, I'd stick to a formula more like that. I wouldn't have entirely comedic episodes, especially not in the season that ends with interdimensional Satan rising from interdimensional hell and razing the entire city. It just seems like it's belittling the seriousness of the plot a little bit, sticking this right smack in the middle of that. But as a standalone entity and as a comedic filler episode, I mean, I'm serious. I don't think you can get much better than this. So I do want to criticize Beast Boy for just a moment here. If he's really worried about getting tired when he's flying after an enemy, there are ways to fly smarter, dude. Fly up high, and then let gravity do most of the work for the rest of the chase. It's really simple. The Animorphs did it all the time. I don't even know where I'm going with this review now. I'm just chasing every tangent that pops into my head. This episode is the kind of thing that inspires that sort of thinking in people, I think. So I'm just going to go ahead and end it now. What do you guys think of the episode Employee of the Month? Have you guys seen it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord, link in the description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.